Welcome to In the Room, where we explore the elusive world of casting for film, TV, and commercials. Join us as we interview directors, writers, producers, and actors, taking a deep dive into their experiences with casting and how the ultimate decisions are made in bringing a story to the screen. Get an inside look at casting and find out what really goes on in the room.
My name is John Williams, and I'm a casting director. And today I have Christopher Folkens. He is a visionary filmmaker known for his dynamic storytelling and innovative approach to cinema. His last project, Catalyzes, 2025, exemplifies his ability to intertwine complex narratives with thought-provoking themes. The film follows 7 strangers who awaken confined by an electrical grid, each forced to confront their darkness truths to survive. Folkens' directorial style in Catalyzes draws from inspiration from early 2000 indie sci-fi, characterized by distinctive costumes, lighting, and editing techniques. This stylistic choice adds a unique flair to the film, engaging audiences through its earnest and nostalgic aesthetic. Beyond Catalyzes, Folkens has built a diverse portfolio, showcasing his versatility across various genres. His commitment to challenge societal norms and sparking conversation is evident throughout his body of work, positioning him as a filmmaker, unafraid to explore the depths of human experience. I also wanted to read the definition of catalyst because I thought that really was thought-provoking. Catalyst, a substance that increases the rate of chemical reaction without itself undergoing any permanent chemical change. A person or thing that precipitates an event, which is both describing it. Man, this is a wild ride.
Yeah, did you get to see the movie yet?
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, it was great, man.
Okay.
I was
So you get why we called it Catalyst, right?
100% I do, man. Yeah, and that definition works on both levels, you know?
Yeah.
And so I didn't notice the note when your team sent it over to me, but I was watching it and I was like, dude, this is like 12 Angry Men.
That's it.
I was watching, I was like, dude, this is reminding me of 12 Angry Men. And then I looked at their note and it said a modern version of 12 Angry Men.
Well, I acted in 12 Angry Men in high school.
Okay,
so that's
cool.
actually the origin of the initial idea. Like I was like, man, I was the angriest guy in the room in high school in that show. And like, the idea is that like when I was looking at what sort of a movie I could do and like put my own spin on something and just, really, make my mark as a first feature in this industry, I was like, I thought back to my years doing that. And I was like, also simultaneously looking at the world that we lived in, again, this movie took 9 years to go from concept to completion. So like, and distribution. So 9 years ago, the issues that this movie deals with were,
that's
hotbed
well,
issues.
the other thing is the opening, right? I was like, dude, this is where we're at, like at this moment.
Well, and that's part of the thing that exactly. I mean, and we had to kind of, the bulk of the production happened from sort of 2017 to we wrapped principal photography in 2020, and then like all the editing and all that stuff was happening during the pandemic. So when the George Floyd protests and riots and all that stuff was happening, we literally went out and captured all that LA on fire.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was happening right outside the doorstep of my cinematographer. So we were just like, let's go shoot it. And then like expand what the story, like it made it very real.
So before we get into it, I just want to get a little, since we're new and we just met, I want to know a little bit of your journey of how, like you said, you were in 12 Angry Men, of how you got to this point, because this is as a directorial debut, as far as a feature, it's really big in scope, really big in cast, really big. And so it's like, kudos to you, man, for fucking taking a bite out of it. Let's and I know in this world too, right? It takes 9, it takes 7, it takes so long when you're trying to convince people to give you the money as a first time feature director. So yeah, I want to kind of know how you got here.
I mean, where do we start? Like, I mean, basically, like, I acted in high school, like I said, like, I mean, it was part of the theater crew and like, it was fun. And then,
were you from LA or where are you from?
No, I grew up in Chicago.
Okay.
I'm a Chicago suburb boy. So like, grew up out there. And then I went to college at the University of Illinois. And the year that I got there, the last cinematography class that they had disappeared. I had toyed with the idea of like maybe I could kind of get around, like, I was a speech communication major thinking I was going into pre-law, and I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I thought maybe I would become a lawyer to eventually work my way into the entertainment law and eventually become somehow a part of this business. I also flirted with the idea of becoming, the next Hans Zimmer and writing music for movies because I was a musician throughout my whole life. And I was like, started actually working with the Illini Film and Video, which is like because we didn't have classes there and there was no film program. It was all just sort of film theory stuff, which I took some of those classes and it was cool. But like the Illini Film and Video was my access to actually start creating movies. But I was creating them so that I could write the music for them. And then I started falling in love with the idea of like actually, directing, because I was like, I could be a part of the music and I could be a part of crafting the performances, because that was tapping into sort of my acting background. And I took some acting classes in college. And the beautiful thing about the speech comm major is that there was a lot of freedom to sort of create whatever I wanted to create with it. Supporting coursework was required. So like I had like a certain amount of leeway to sort of design my own film program. And that's basically what I did. I did a lot of leadership studies and advertising studies and media studies and kind of did all that as my supporting coursework. So I basically made my own film program and then would write, big papers about my leadership work and how I promoted the films. And I was bringing in crew from Los Angeles through a film company that was located in Champaign, Illinois, that I teamed up with and brought in crew from all over, and Chicago and LA, and was shooting in the middle of cornfields, Illinois. And one of my like sort of my capstone project, it's called Toxin. It's not the greatest of movies, but we had a, post 9/11, we had a SWAT team doing a whole raid in an airport as one of my like sort of my final exam, little thriller films that I made in college. And so it was kind of a wild way to get started, but it really started. I learned how to think outside the box and how to craft something that, was beyond the norm of what people would expect. And I think that's what I would say out of my sort of college years. Left the college, went straight into producing commercials with Leo Burnett in Chicago. And so I worked there for 4 years or so and left right around, I
Which
think.
Leo Burnett's a huge agency, so you probably got the chance to work with some pretty big directors and kind of be on set and sort of learning the
Yeah.
process. And in your earlier days, it seems like it's kind of the perfect soup. You got your legal, your acting, your distribute, you like hit everything to kind of learn each department.
It was a wild way to do. Yeah, and I learned edit. Sorry to cut you off. I did learn editing really well there too. So it was kind of between, picking up a lot of my editing skills during that time frame and then working as a producer post college, and working with all these vendors and seeing how directors would, be on phone calls and on set. I mean, it was kind of, just getting thrown in the deep end and learning as I go. I didn't ever go to film school. It was just like film school by doing.
It's the best. It's the best
Yeah.
way. And then was there visual effects in there? Because Catalyst has a lot of visuals in it too.
Well, so one of the relationships that I built through doing my short film work post leaving Leo Burnett. So starting in 2010, I directed a short film, Diversion, which I just released on YouTube. You can check it out on my Mystic Films YouTube page. And that film was the start of working with Ryan Urban, who was my VFX supervisor on Catalyst. And Ryan is the head of Turncoat Pictures, and he's a Chicago guy, and he's also done a lot of the Wachowskis films. He's, VFX supervised a bunch of.
I was gonna say, dude, the other element was Matrix in this for sure. Like,
yeah. And of course, that's one of my big inspirations.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Matrix movie. I love a lot of Fincher movies and J.J. Abrams and James Cameron, I'm inspired by a lot of different.
I mean, it's
filmmakers.
the genre is so much fun, right? Because you can just like the canvas is just it's whatever you can come up with.
Yeah, and Christopher Nolan is obviously one of my biggest director influences as well, in terms of the sort of mind bending nature of the stories that I like to tap into here. So
cool, man. So that's a nice, good, colorful education for sure of even the commerce side with the advertising, kind of understanding that component. And so you said the 12 Angry Men hit you in high school. When did you get the idea from the script, and did you already collaborate with the other guys, or was it like what was the time frame of
Well,
writing it?
yeah. So like in terms of Catalyst specifically, I obviously had done the 12 Angry Men stuff back in high school, and I'd always been like, when I wonder if I could do something with this like someday, and it's because you're also looking at, well, how do you make a movie for a low budget that also deals with, I mean, at least this is what I was looking at, is how can I do something that I would want to see, number one, and that actually does something in the world. And in order to do that, you really need to kind of look at what are those sort of universal truths and what are those sorts of like accessible things that we can tap into as a story that will make this, accessible to people, and that will live on and become like a sort of perennial, success, as it were. And so that's kind of like what sort of story can I tell that will activate people and have them want to share it? Because that's important as a first feature director, is what is that thing that's going to sort of move the needle and not just be the same thing that we've always seen, but really stand out from the crowd, which is, obviously also part of the theme of the movie as well, is to be that sort of distinction. And, who do you have to be to like, rise up when the tides are going the other direction and you got to stand for something,
Yeah.
So like, does that answer?
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And so how long did it stay in like writing and script form?
Well, so the process, the journey to bring this thing to life started as sort of experiments back in 2015. I was like, what if I get 12 actors and I just throw them into this warehouse room, which is actually literally the same sort of complex and next door to the location we ended up using in the film. So I brought 12 actors, men and women at the time, threw them into this room, and a lot of they're like, announcements from the messenger and the architect, like kind of character that is in the film, like, you're hearing this sort of garbled voice, and they were literally responding in real time. So I was actually trying out that sort of improv approach
Yeah.
back in 2015, that was then used to create a script version that I then tabled because I was like not really happy with kind of where it was headed, and I'm like, I'm going to just sit on this idea for a bit and revisit it in a little bit. And so flash forward to sort of mid to late 2016, I resurrected that, talked with some of my producing partners that ended up, like David Bianchi, who was actually one of the guys that was in the original experiments to begin with. I was like, hey, you remember when we did that thing, a year ago? Like, I think we want to actually do the improv part as how we shoot like the first chunk of this film and see what we get and see where we go with it. And so I decided to throw some of my own money into it because I wasn't really willing to
Well,
risk.
first off, how did you convince? I mean, did you have access to actors and everybody to get
Well,
people to come down?
yeah, I knew a few of the actors that are ultimately in the film, and then Dave is connected as well because he's done a bunch of projects. He's been in NCIS, and like, I mean, he's
I
been all over
noticed.
the
I noticed in the cast that was the through line. There was a bunch of NCIS credits on everybody's credit.
Yeah, I mean, and he had worked with Patrick Kilpatrick and Noel Guglielmi and some of those guys that are like really heavy hitters. And because of the improv nature of everything, we were like, we need to work with actors that not only love improvising, but can also sort of tap into something from their own history and their own past that, we can align some of the character to their own life story that makes it even that much more real.
Oh,
And
that's
so what you're
interesting.
getting
Yeah.
on the day is this magic that you really like. They didn't even know everything that they were going to get into, which is part of the coolest part of this whole process, is that every time you see, I don't know how much when you heard about this movie, but like the only times all seven core ensemble actors are in the room at the same time that was all done in one night.
Oh, wow. No way.
Then they have never been in the same room at the same time after that. Like, that's it.
Wow.
So that was night one.
You
That's why,
captured
like,
all of that in one night?
all the group trial
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
and because actually we shot the film from 2017 and wrapped about a week before everybody started hearing about COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is, I thought I was going to get a reshoot day with the seven guys, in 2020. Well, we know how that went.
Yeah.
And so I basically, in the editorial process, started looking at, okay, different ways I could tell the story and use that obstacle of COVID as an opportunity to tell the story in a different, fresh, unique way. And that's where a lot of the sort of non-linearness of how we ended up telling the story, which ended up being the best way to tell the story.
Yeah, yeah.
It's we and I also have to caveat that, like, when we started this process, knowing that we were doing this with the improv thing, we all had to align that we needed to understand the why behind making the movie more than the exact words on the page of the sort of scriptment that we were operating from, like a script/treatment, right? So, like,
I mean, I don't think it would have worked, right? Because there's just so much
we
spark that, like,
yeah,
and it's interesting that you said bring kind of your own things because it feels like it's hitting a spark, right? Like in other
yeah,
people, like it's like seeing the energy and the flow of it, and when people step up to say, it was like you could tell it was like it was based on some type of igniting something real.
yeah, and, like, and a lot of they didn't know all of what was gonna get triggered in the moment, so that was why it was important for me to kind of be right at the sort of front lines of it all, and, like, actually triggering sort of audio cues or visual cues or anything, like, with my or Apple Watch and iPad and all the things, like, in real time to cause and create that sort of tension in the moment, because they all had character profiles
Yeah,
that were designed to be in conflict. But the question was, when do we sort of make that happen? And also the other part of it that is really crazy is the editorial process of all of it, because I was also trying to shoehorn shots that were, like, from different, because we had 3 cameras,
yeah.
right? So, like, you're not capturing everything in real time at all, like, at every step of that. Like, I have to be able to cut away to performances and things to make reactions that actually also still make sense
Yeah, you
in
have to
it.
do like a Ridley Scott thing where you got all these
Right.
cameras that have the different setups and stuff. And I saw you
Well,
shot on,
we only had 3,
yeah, yeah.
so, like,
But
that's
no,
the fun.
definitely, definitely not a Ridley Scott. But I saw you shot on red, so you were able to kind of keep things rolling. So yeah, that makes sense. And then also too, I guess knowing the depth and the visual effects that came, and then knowing the other side of it too, right? And so did you have the other side, the collective guys in the shot as well,
The
or
the masked
mask guys?
figures,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, they were all there on the day. We were responding in real time, but there were some, like, I had to get a few cutaways,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
actually some shots after the fact, like, but that was easy enough to do in COVID times, because that was just a guy in a mask. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, for sure.
Uh,
And so
so
you're kind of acting almost as I would imagine, because the storyline has such intricacies and depth to it, but you're sort of also acting as kind of like a conductor
yeah,
in a live way, feeding off of everybody.
yeah, exactly. And so that was where, based on what was showing up in real time, I could make that decision to roll another cue in, or have another, sound cue play, or respond, or, like, shot, when,
That's what I
like,
was gonna say. They're like, dude, could you stop with the shocking?
the lightning bolts. I mean, that was ultimately a lot of fun to be able to do that. But, like,
Yeah,
basically that was a strobe light that I was able to, like, so they knew that when they saw that strobe light, your guys are getting fucking electric
yeah, yeah,
bolts.
yeah.
Heck, excuse me. I just
Which they all kind of really well did in synchronicity. It seems like it was timed out really well.
I mean, they look, man, we had an amazing cast
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this.
No, you
Like,
did. What's
it
so
is
great about your cast, and I want to get to them in a bit, was that like they're all those supporting heavy hitters that are in LA, right? That
you've seen them in everything.
and
Fast and
everything.
Furious,
But
Minority
and
Report.
I love those guys, right? But it's like they never get this chance a lot of times to be the whatever the meat. They're always the potatoes,
Yeah.
right? And so it was great to give them that sort of like the sort of platform that could really show their strengths, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, Patrick Kilpatrick's performance in this is, like, genuinely terrifying at times, like, in how subtle and nuanced and, like, disturbing it is. And yeah, there's a growth to all of them, and so they really get, like, Omar Khan. He's a stunt guy on, like, Michael Bay
Yeah,
movies.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
Russo brothers. I mean, like, these are guys that um really do have a lot of acting chops in them, and they just never. Some of them don't get that opportunity, like you said.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's cool to see what
it's
they were able to go with.
yeah. It's really hard. I mean, they're already in the, A-list arena, which is great in that experience. And so I want to ask too the next question, which is like kind of what tends to be the hardest part, which is how did you do your raise? How did you get your financing? I don't necessarily want to know how much unless you want to disclose, but that process sometimes
Mm.
is like the most difficult.
Yeah, I mean, so fundraising side of things, like I definitely put a lot of my own money in at first, and then once we had the momentum, we were able to actually like show this is, yes, we're a low budget movie, but this is not going to look like and feel like a low budget
Yeah.
movie. And so there were we went to a few other investors that were able to or believed in why we were making the movie. Again, that was the first critical step. Um, because when they were coming in, it was sort of piecemeal along the way. Like we would raise some money and then go and shoot another phase, and then raise some money and then go and shoot another phase. And we were dealing with, you know, different. We knew that this is kind of how we were going to have to make this movie, so it was a little bit of a non-traditional way of making it, of kind of crewing up and shooting. So I had 2 cinematographers, 4 production designers. I mean, it was wild.
Dude, the scroll is massive. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
your low budget scroll, dude. It's like
Uh,
it,
over 400 people that worked on the movie
yeah.
from all over the world. Visual effects artists from all over the world. I mean, it's pretty wild. But like again, people were willing and wanted to work on it because of the why behind making the movie. They understood the story was tapping into something bigger that is really and it's it's perfect that the film is coming out right now, that it deals with a lot of things that we need to look at. And if we keep doing what we keep doing and we keep showing up and behaving the way we keep behaving with each other in this world, we're set up for a really nasty future unless we shift. And so that's why, keeping the title Catalyst was really important for me along the way, because it stands for something even greater.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, for sure. And so how long was that process for you to actually get funding? Was that, you said it took 9 years. What were some of the
well,
main
I'd
things?
say I say 9 years concept to
Yeah,
distribution,
yeah.
because, like, it was 2 years of experiments to start the thing. We shot it from 2017 to basically 2020. Kinda that was the window when I was raising the money and shooting and kind of, putting my own money in and do it. Like, it was a lot of just
Yeah,
figuring
so
it out.
yeah, no, it's independent film. It's
And
where there's a will,
well, and
there's a
then
way.
yeah, and then I'm like, okay, we're in the middle of the pandemic, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna sell my Red camera to put it into the visual effects budget on this, and well, you
Yeah.
got to do what you got to do.
And,
So
and,
like,
and were you like, are you fucking kidding me? Like the world shuts down. Like how hard are you gonna? That's the whole thing. When you make these, it can be so hard, and the challenges, and so that's why I even have this podcast. Is just like it needs to be celebrated for how hard it is when you're not in the system and you're able to pull this off.
yeah, I mean, and that's what David, my co-producer, and I, we talk a lot about. Just we got to be finishers in this. Like, no one's if you're not a man of your word, man or woman of your word, like no one should trust you because like let's face it, like that's what I had skin in the game because I had money in it myself, and I could say, look, I, we are going to finish this movie come hell or high water. Like it is going to get done. Trust me
Yeah.
and trust the process. Like even though this is a weird way to make a movie and it is definitely not the right way to make most movies, it was the right way to make this movie. And because of the momentum that we had working in our favor, I could cut trailers of like where we were at, or I could cut like, scenes and show like different people. And they were like, yeah, I'll put money into
Yeah. Yeah.
this.
This
Like,
works. Yeah.
cool, let's go.
Yeah. No,
So they could
a sizzle helps a ton for sure. Like putting together sizzles and showing people what it's going to look like. And did you go ahead and get like the effects in that and the color grade
not
or
well,
no?
there were some temp effects that we did for like sort of an early version of the trailer, but like even that stuff kind of evolved a little bit. Like I actually leaned into more of the sci-fi element than I originally was probably going to, and I'm glad we did because I think that was the right way to go. Like I knew I wanted a sort of grounded sci-fi, but like we kind of dialed that up
Mhm.
as the movie was evolving and kind of telling us what it wanted to be. Like that's the biggest sort of takeaway from this whole thing, that was like really learning to tune into what the film is telling you it wants to be, so that you're not attached to like, well, this is what my ego says it needs to be. It's
Mhm.
more of this is what's in service of the bigger picture story, theme, and why behind making the movie. And like if I'm attached to it only being this one way, I'm missing what it could possibly be, even in a better way. Does
Well,
that
yeah,
make sense?
and yeah, it makes total sense, and you're totally right. It's like when you're making anything, a song or whatever. It's like you have to kind of take from whatever this sort of. And David Lynch talks a lot about this, just taking your ideas from the ether and then listening to what the story's telling you.
Yeah, catching the big fish,
Yeah,
right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so within and I think that worked a lot for it in its favor, which you're right, because I was like, it really defines it in the genre of like a sci-fi thriller. You know what I mean? Um, Yeah.
I mean, we knew we were going to be a genre bending movie from the get go. Like we knew we were going to have elements of sci-fi, with heavy character drama. It's definitely psychological thriller, and it's not comedy. I'll tell you that much. So it's like we knew that we were going to be playing in a lot of those arenas, and that the sci-fi of it all allowed us to lean into some of the sort of like hold the mirror up to society in a way that I think you can get away with more with a sci-fi that's sort of, you know, it just has that sort of context that allows you to sort of hold the mirror up and reflect things
And
a bit.
hold the themes up and really like kind of like show the audience, and that's what was I found super interesting was where you took it, and I don't want to spoil it, but where you took it with everybody, it was such a sort of a misdirect, and I think, I think the way you set it up and with the sci-fi element was super powerful, and it helped it a ton.
Well, and that's also one of the reasons why. I mean, because you're leaning into like kind of the sort of non unconventional storytelling that we went with, where you'd think when you see this movie and you think, oh, it's like Saw.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, actually, that on its head. And because we did it that way, that's why the independent financing route was so important, is because I think if had we originally flirted with the idea of going to like a Blumhouse or going to a different company to fund the rest of it and really work through that sort of larger scale production flow. And that was an early decision we made when we were like, yeah, this is not it's going to end up turning the movie into something that we really are against. Like this film is designed to stand out from the crowd, just like
Yeah.
the message is in a
Yeah,
way.
they probably wouldn't let it breathe so much for sure. You know what I mean?
No,
And they wouldn't let it
no,
play out. They'd be like, I mean, they just constantly. It seems like the notes you get are just dumbing it down. So, I
right.
think that was definitely smart. So when you guys got into production, was most of it downtown LA? It looked like did you do some of the stages in downtown LA or?
Yeah, I mean, we shot all over it was all LA, but it was a matter of like there's some, like I'm not sure exactly if it was like it's definitely south side of LA, but also downtown LA. Shot at Willow Studios. I mean, we've shot kind of all over the place.
And it was mostly like I mean it mostly looks like besides like the like desert scene and the house scene, but most of it seemed like it was kind of contained
Yeah,
to sort of that warehouse sort of feel, right, with some street stuff and church stuff. But
yeah.
so was that how many days of production did you have on it? Like total, you think? You're gonna say like 7?
8,
8?
8 days.
You're
Yeah,
fucking kidding me, really?
8 days. Well, that's why shooting half the movie in one night really helped us.
Yeah.
Even still, I mean, yeah, the rest of it was done in 8 full production days spread out over 3.5 years.
Dude, that's
So,
insane.
yeah, the bulk of it, like, again, I gotta emphasize that the bulk of the movie was shot in 2019 with a pickup day, or like 1 or 2 days in the beginning of 2020, right before COVID hit. But it was basically that sort of so like mid 2019 to the beginning of 2020 is when we did the bulk of
Bulk of
the
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think it was like 5 of the 8 production days were in that window, but like, um, the fact that everybody looks the same throughout the movie is just a miracle.
Miracle, yeah. I mean, I think because the color and the tone and stuff like that, that helps a lot, and it seems real rich, and so I think it helps with
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, I never noticed. I mean, I would have never guessed that that was all done in one night. That's just
You'd
crazy,
never be able to I've asked people, like, I'm like, "Hey, well, can you pick which DP did which stuff and all that?" And they have no idea. No one knows.
dude.
I
To
mean, 'cause
to
I
be honest, I was thinking that you had yeah, was a much larger scale
mm,
production for sure because of just I mean just the amount of people that you have involved and the amount of scenes and just I was just like dude I figured you and I don't know what your budget is, was probably a lot more than what you had,
it was
kudos to you, man.
I'll tell you this, the budget is definitely under $1 million, and it does not look like
It
it.
does not at all. I was gonna say 2 to 3.
Yeah, it has the vibe of a yeah, 2 to 3 million, but we are definitely, under 1 million. And, we did you have to get creative with these sorts of movies, and I was building a lot I had a lot of relationships I was leaning on to that were willing to work on some deferred pay and things like that because they, again, we all believed in the idea and why we were making it, and they knew that we would deliver. And I think that's a big point because so many people work on films and they're like, it never shows up, it never gets released.
Totally.
And even though it took a while, like the film had been done actually since 2022, like this film, we were adamant about getting the best distributor possible to make sure that we were getting the film out there that was going to again allow us to keep the movie as it was designed,
Mhm.
like down to the title and all the things. Because like people try to change the title. I mean, it's like
Oh,
no, I
it
can't.
happens it happens to us all the time. I mean, there's so many
Yeah. So
great titles on, the films that I've, done, and I'm like, "What? They're changing it to
yeah.
what?" And they're like, "Oh, because it'll come up earlier on Apple because it has an A or a B," and you're like, "But the title's amazing, man."
Well, and we almost went down a route trying to go with one company that then ultimately I trusted my gut. I'm like, I got to pull the deal on this, and they went out of business. So I'm
Yeah.
like, we dodged, well, like, and no one knows about that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like I'm sharing it with you out of, what, but the idea is that like we trusted the process of life and really trusted our gut and our instinct along the way. Um, and I'm really glad we did because now it's actually getting released at I think the perfect time. Like,
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I mean, nobody knows like the ups and the downs and the craziness, and then they see it and they're like,
yeah.
you get your weird comments online, and I'm just like, I'm gonna find you and I'm gonna kill you. You have no idea what we went through to make this.
I mean, honestly, I know this movie was always going to be one that you either love it or you
Yeah,
hate it,
yeah.
and because we have a bunch of 4.5 star out of 5 stars, 4 stars out of 5 stars, you know, all these great reviews, and then there's like one guy that says a 1 star review, and I'm like, yeah, you don't want to look at your own life, dude. Like, how you watch this movie tells me how you live your life.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
No.
I it's designed that way. Like I also have a background in sort of personal development, transformation trainings, and things like that that I love and it sort of is infused in the
Oh,
way I
100% it is. That's crazy. Yeah, that's the human element that's so great about this movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I wanted it to be a transformational experience where people and this is some of the best feedback that I've gotten from, a very diverse audiences that have watched this and are like, I cannot wait to bring this home and watch this with my family. I'm going to force my family to watch this movie because it's going to create the sort of conversation that we are both craving and resisting and like not even willing to have this conversation until this movie becomes the literally, pun intended, catalyst to create that
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
Like it's designed to create that uncomfortable conversation. And that's why when someone watches it and gives it a 1 star review, I know you don't want to look at
You don't wanna
that.
look in the mirror. Yeah, you
You
don't
don't
wanna
want to
look in
look
the
at the
mirror.
review.
Yeah.
Like it's clear.
Yeah.
It's very clear.
And so with the I noticed there was a background casting, but there wasn't a casting director. So how did you go about one, getting all these guys on board, and then two, I mean, how did you build that I was going to say how you built that chemistry, but especially now since I know it's one night.
Well, it was a lot of relationship. I was literally David using his Rolodex on his cell phone, basically calling up the guys that he knew. I called up the guys I knew. Um, we didn't have an official casting director, and then ultimately, um, I like one of the guys. So Chris Wood, the guy that plays the cop in there, um, he is someone that David and I have done a bunch of spoken word, like sort of what he calls spinema, like it's the sort of music video version of a spoken word
Mhm.
poetry piece. And so like Chris Wood is one of those guys that we have worked with on many of those projects. And so I knew that I could trust him with taking on the role and being able to use his words in a way that was going to be poetic, but really real. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Yeah.
I was taking a leap of faith with him, and Jermaine Love is someone who played Professor Cartwright is someone that I've you know known from other circles, and I'm like he's going to be perfect for this. He's very intellectual, and like I was trying to use people that I knew that I could sort of evoke parts of their life.
Yeah, I mean,
He had,
I've heard
he
it
was
I've heard it explained like I need different paint strokes, you know? I've already
yeah.
got that paint stroke, I need this paint stroke.
Everyone brings a different color to it,
Yeah.
and in reality, also, Jermaine was actually in New York when the towers fell, so there was a lot of, like, his sort of interruption of the moments with the sort of terrorist plot line was very important
Yeah.
to have that real connection in the moment, and that when like, the moments like that was just magic, that the
Yeah.
camera landed in we knew it was we kind of felt that it was coming, and, like, that there was this the get and I'm radio like, I'm using the mask to sort of cover up my microphone telling the crew where to go, and so we got the camera in position, and we're like, "There it is. That's it," you know? It's really cool.
So
Really.
as far as you said, you built character development. What was that process for you to build like the story for everybody? And
Well, it was a lot of like started with character profiles that were designed to sort of like, because the idea is that in that room, each person has someone that they have every reason to hate in that room.
yeah, no,
Either
yeah, the
they are
counterpart.
someone they hate or they represent
Yep.
exactly what they hate. And so the idea is that when they're told the parasite is among you, choose or die.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the hook that starts you know, the core sort of tension of, well,
One of
you
us
know,
got to go. I mean, that was I didn't see where you went with it. It was it was totally
well,
like who is the parasite?
we're conditioned to
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
one of us got to go.
yeah.
And the thing is, it's all a puzzle, and the mental conditioning that we've all been, indoctrinated into is on full display in front of us. And so what's happening in that room is a sort of microcosm for the way that we live our lives out in the real world. I mean, we were dealing and that, it was also a conscious choice to make it all men in that room, because when I use a very powerful female to be the one that's created this whole
Hmm.
organization, the architect of the Catalyst Collective, it says something about where we get to go and how we approach life moving forward by that contrast, and
Hmm.
that she has enough energy and you know she's a bit of an enigma in this, and I love that about that role. That she as one person has so much power that contrasts the seven, toxic masculine guys stuck in this room, and see where they go. Right? And it's like, are they willing to actually, you know,
Well, my
hold that
mind
mirror?
my mind also went to there in purgatory, and then she is the ultimate decider and the ultimate judge of their sins. Uh,
Well, a lot of it is it's interesting because I don't give firm answers on a lot of this, and I think that's what I think is very interesting about where, it does close a lot of the loops, but I do think that there's a bit that's left up to the audience to kind of bring in their own perspective. I mean, it's funny, I don't know, if you heard this story through the grapevine, but I was on a flight coming from Chicago back to Los Angeles, and I just happened to be wearing my Catalyst jacket, and this woman behind me was like, "You got to tell me about the ending." And I was like, What are you talking about?"
you didn't know
And
it? She saw
I
it,
looked
or
down, and then she's like, "My son had me watch this movie, and like I loved it, but like I'm really trying to figure out like my thoughts on the ending." And she was telling me all of her like her pitch on it, and I was like, "You're not that far off."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was so cool. I'm like, the fact that, it turned into, the family members watching it together, and then they're actually thinking about it long after they finish watching the movie. I'm like,
Debating
that is
it, yeah.
it was literally like the week after we released the movie. So I'm like, this is what I've always dreamed of as a filmmaker, to create that sort of, conversation that moves people to look at their own lives in a way that the best movies, I think, like, I love David Fincher's The Game. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
one of my favorite movies, and it's like when you watch that, you're like, you don't really real like where they're going until the very end, and you're like, "Ooh, okay, maybe I'm gonna look at my own life a little bit differently moving forward."
Yeah, no, for sure. The ending was cool, and
Yeah,
for me, it was like redemption, or it was like payoff for that exploratory
yeah.
forgiveness of oneself. And so yeah, I thought it tied up really nicely. And then I was gonna ask about like AI and technology, but knowing that it was back in the day, did you ever come back with some of the tools that have sort of emerged and used some stuff, or was it tools from
No,
before?
no, I mean, in terms of using AI tools on
Yeah,
this?
or
No.
just or the visuals. I mean, the visuals are such a prominent and cool effect, and like even with the collars when they light up and all the different
Oh, yeah.
the visuals that you created, like that. I mean, I would think that that was very costly and time consuming. So I was just kind of wondering about that process.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's my visual effects supervisor being a beast. I mean, Brian Urban's amazing.
Yeah,
We had to strategize. There's over 200 visual effects shots in this movie, and so given that it was, also a, modest budget, I mean, the visual effects line item is probably one of the larger line items on the,
that's what
you
I
know.
was gonna say. It had to be. Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, you're talking like 200 visual effects shots, like, it's the whole production triangle. You good, fast, and cheap. Pick two. I mean, we knew that it was gonna, like, I'm fine with taking a little longer if it means we're gonna get really high quality for lower price, we had to kind of fit in between other jobs and just figure out where we were gonna, go.
Yeah.
And he was willing to work with us on that. I mean, he's a saint because, like, he was also down to play ball because also the personal relationship. We go way back. We've worked on so many projects over the years that he knew that we were going to be up to something really special on it. So,
Did you have that vision for all that, or did he help? Did he help kind of bring some stuff with, like, was it? You said it kind of turned more into this other thing.
yeah, it's a collaboration. I mean, like, because at first it was starting out like, so say for instance, even just like the grid, the sort of energy
Yep.
field that's holding them in the room.
Yeah.
It was originally going to be more like lasers,
Yeah.
and that's the initial pass that we did. But I'm like, maybe we got to go more sci-fi. Let's like, and that's where it turned into the sort of the energy field that could sort of be living and breathing. And as they get closer and try to get out, then it becomes more, and also how that weaves into some of the sort of act 3 stuff. And there's elements like, again, I don't need to spoon feed what they mean as long as the sort of guideline and rule book of how we're working with when we use those moments, that it makes sense on that level. Because there is a lot that you can question of what is real and what is not.
100%. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like, I think that because so much of it is like, again, the sort of underlying concept of this is that we are all, I mean, and again, not outside of the story here, but like we're all in this sort of prison of our own minds. And when we choose to really break free from that, then what's possible?
Yeah, man. I mean, when he woke, you're just sort of like, what is this? Like, what is happening? And then you had fight choreography as well, which was really, really good. Like, I was super impressed with the fight scene.
Oh, those guys are incredible.
Yeah.
They were flipping over and doing no wire work whatsoever. There were 0 cables. They were just literally just acrobat flying through the air, knees to the face. I mean, all the things. It was wild. Like, there was that energy on set that day was truly magical. And that whole fight scene was shot in 2 hours. So like, uh, I shoot fast, but the way we had to shoot on this movie was pretty insane.
I mean,
like,
that's easily a day, right? Like fight
yeah,
choreography,
at
everything.
least.
Yeah.
I mean, because that was a substantial fight scene with a lot of moving pieces, and yeah, we had 2 cameras, but I mean, it's like that only goes so far.
No,
you know,
for sure. And for you, I mean, what a large, diverse sort of first bite at this. Like, I mean, with the difficulty of directing and the subtleties needed and the fights and I mean, what gave you the balls? Like,
well, thank you. I mean, like, look, man. I think it comes back to that same answer of the why. Like, if your why for making a movie matters enough, you'll deal with the circumstances. It's if the vision is bigger than the circumstances, that's what matters. Like, we were willing to do whatever it takes to find the way. And in a lot of cases, it wasn't pretty, but we ended up figuring it out. And like also releasing some attachment to, oh man, if I would have just had another day, I could have made this thing look that much more special. What you can't be precious about it either. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I hope that lands. I think it's just if that why for the vision behind why you're making this movie matters enough, you will find the way to make it happen.
And what were the big takeaways for that journey for you personally? You said you do self development, stuff like that. What was it that I don't know, the evolution for you?
Just like on a personal level?
On a personal level, yeah.
I mean, trusting myself fully. Like there's something beautiful. There were a lot of times where like I had to really trust my instinct on the non-traditional way of making this movie, the non-traditional way of telling the story and the edit and all the things, that it was going to land with people. And based on results, it is. So there's a certain amount of like, there were people that were trying to talk me out of doing, and they shall remain nameless, but there was quite a few people that tried to talk me out of doing several things along the way. And I'm like, and again, I think that there's a certain amount of, it's where the come from is on my end of like, whether it's from an ego place or it's from a vision and it's whether it's aligned with the vision or not.
Yeah.
That's, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. No, I totally. Yeah. It's bigger than you. It's not about you. It's bigger than you. And then, it's really difficult because you got producers and everybody telling you you can't, and
but everyone's looking at it from their own filter.
Yeah.
And like, if you can find compassion in that, there's freedom that comes from that, which is also basically the message of a lot of the movie too.
Mhm.
So it's like my own story as a human being and a filmmaker was mirroring my lead actor's story through the movie as well.
I mean, yeah,
Which was
that
wild,
happens
man.
that happens a lot, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, even when you watch certain films and you're going through something, you're just like, it is from your perspective, and you're like, like, I mean, I was even with the opening and where you're at, I was like, man, this must have been made like last year because this is like this is exactly where we're at.
Well, I was able to because, we had some I was able to expand some things along the way, given that we were able to just expand the edit and
Yeah,
kind of augment things and change some audio or what, I mean, there's ways to do that to make it so that it still remained
relevant where we're at. Yeah.
relevant, fresh, and things like that along the way. And I mean, think that was important, um, but
So
it's still the bulk of it remained true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so for your journey, once it was done, did you, I mean, because this is kind of a little tricky in like the festival world, and that's what most people do, right? They're like, okay, let's make a film and go to festivals. And I'm like, that's not really a good return of investment plan. So what was the distribution process? You're saying people saw it before, I guess it's getting out. So what is what was that journey like?
Yeah, oh, I mean, the distribution side of
Yeah, yeah.
things, I said, I mean, the film had been done, you know, for several years before now. Like it was a bit of an interesting route to get it distributed.
Were you doing
Uh,
screenings or were you doing festivals
yeah,
or?
well, we did some festivals. We did only a handful of festivals because I knew, like, I mean, it's too slick for a movie. So
Yeah, I
like,
mean, it doesn't have that sort of like art like it's a fun sci-fi big, you know what I mean? And festivals are typically like black and white and foreign language and
yeah,
yeah.
no music and all of
Yeah,
that. It's
yeah.
like, well, like we're not Anora. We're
Yeah.
not. We're
Yeah.
not
Which
like
is great. I love that stuff, but it's like it's really hard when
yeah.
you do these sort of sci-fi or action-packed films, it's really hard to find its path.
Right, and so, like, we premiered at the Downtown LA Film Festival, and I mean, there were places that we went with the film and we won awards and did the things, but, like, ultimately it was, I did a big premiere at the 20th Century Fox studio lot, which was really cool, and, 450 people got to see it that night, and it landed. I mean, it was like we knew it was working,
Mhm.
so that gave us the confidence to really hold until we landed the deal with the right distribution company. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like, because you're not going to sort of the festival route where there's like, buyers are just going to throw money at it or whatever. I mean, we had to go through the sort of process of working with the right sales team, and that was a process in and of
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
And then in that time of kind of like flirting with all these different sales teams, my producer also started his own sales agency, and so I was like, well, that's that way. I mean, because there's so many snakes out there in the sales
Dude, I
agency
mean,
side.
yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit because it's like along the way, right? There's just like so many pitfalls to step in, and it's like that you do this crazy, amount of work, and you make this great thing, and then it's like to hand it off to some shyster, right?
You
And,
need to
and
be
your
careful.
baby, like hand your baby to someone, right? So tell me
Well, and
what
that's
lessons you learned during that.
oh yeah. I mean, again, trust your instincts because like the my gut said with one particular company that shall remain nameless, I pulled the plug on it.
That's their name shall remain nameless.
I'll remain nameless. And I'm like, I'm really glad I trusted my gut because they ended up, out of business. And so, had we been on their roster, who knows what
Yeah,
happened with the movie? And
yeah,
so, also make sure that you have a clause in your deal that if they go out of business, you get your rights
yeah,
back.
yeah.
Um, but like, I think that again, trusting instincts and like coming back to making sure that there's like, I was very adamant with the distribution deals that we landed that I'm like, you cannot make material changes to this movie without my permission.
Hmm.
And people try to change the title and send it off, and like, oh, I think we're not gonna. I mean,
Yeah,
kind of a big deal,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like, so
If we change the name, he might not notice.
yeah, and because also I was like, yeah, I mean, if you do that, I'm literally not going to do anything to promote this thing. I mean,
Yeah,
so you kind of need to like, I mean, I'm just being very clear about like everybody's got their own agenda. Everybody thinks that they're right, and it's like you got to maintain your vision. You know, um, is it in alignment with why you're doing the movie?
right.
And literally, that's the key. I mean, I was open to like, hey, give me a name for the movie that's better than Catalyst,
Yeah.
and we'll consider it.
Yeah.
And also tell me how you're going to make that title sequence, the opening, Catalyst flying in movie card for anything less than what I paid for it.
Yep.
I mean, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get those favors over again.
Yeah.
So who's paying for that?
Especially
Oh,
for a name that
yeah.
nobody's gonna like.
Yeah, I'm like, so it's just, I mean, it's just being realistic. Like,
It's
first of all,
almost yeah, it's almost like that's all the only like tricks they have up their sleeve to like make it think like they know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? And no offense to anybody that does that because I don't do it, and I imagine there's reasons behind it. But like, I mean, it's one of those things you just can't learn how to navigate until after you navigate it.
right.
Yeah.
Right. But ultimately, look, we landed with the company that we're at, 4Digital. We are, they've released it in US, UK, and Canada. We've got we're going to be working on deals around the rest of the world. The sales team is working on that as we speak as well. And I'm sure it's going to end up on some airlines and things in the future. I mean, so it's going to be all over the place. I don't know where, if your audience is all over the world, but like that's the goal, is to have it seen and spread and have people share it. I mean, that there's people that are reaching out like, hey, I'm in Germany, I want to watch it. Can you send it? I'm like, well, trust it'll get there.
It'll get there. Have you been able to screen anywhere outside of the US or?
No, we're talking about, I mean, it's going to be in Japan soon for
Oh, that's
sure.
cool.
Yeah, no, we're definitely in talks with a lot of these different territories. And I know that they're going to the Cannes Film Festival as well.
Yeah, it's a huge market for them. So
yeah, it's going to be there. So like, if any buyers are listening,
yeah, yeah.
look it up.
Go to our booth.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So what's up next for you? What do you got on your horizon?
I mean, I have some films that actually I had. So the funny thing is, Catalyst was a bit of a reaction to having a couple films that I had tried to get off the ground, but they were just too big as a first feature. So like, I'm actually like, well, now,
Yeah, yeah.
like, so there's actually gotten some heat under some of those that I'm looking to psychological serial killer thriller, and another, some that are based on sort of real life events. It's the sort of fun movies, but also some that are really heavy, dramatic, real life event type driven movies that I can't really talk about all the specifics
Yeah,
on
of
those.
course,
But
right.
they're based on actual historical events that I'm working with some writers to kind of pull those together and just see which one takes off first. I mean, ultimately, I want to tell them all, but
Yeah.
it's like, and I'm also flirting with the idea of directing some narrative television. Which I directed on a series called Razor last year that
Yep.
was nominated for a Primetime Emmy. And with some of my partners from this film, David Bianchi as well.
Yeah.
And so like that is,
It's a great world. It's a great world to get into. I mean, as far as like consistent work for directors, and you get to drop in, be a part of that world, and drop out.
yeah, I mean, it's a different world though, because it's also like you're kind of in the film side of things, it can be a bit more director driven, and in the cinema, it's sort of like television side of things, it's more on the showrunner and the kind of writer's world.
Totally.
And you're conforming to sort of the
The
visual.
visual that the director who's did the pilot set up, and you're kind of coming in and trying to, which I always thought was super impressive, right? How they can keep the consistent sort of vibe of a show and the themes and the is so consistent with like maybe rotating 3-4 directors a year, if not more.
There's something that's fun about that too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, getting to work on Razor was fun because like I got to actually really work within the confines of what I was given, but also like bring my own stamp to it.
Put
which
your
is,
little your stuff on it.
Emotionally compelling visual storytelling. That's
Yeah.
my jam.
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing about this genre is it's fun, but two, it typically can find its way into the world for distribution. Like, horror was that way for a long time, and I feel like sci-fi and sort of like crime-driven stuff is what is getting bought right now. And so I feel like you're at the right place at the right time with this type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I hope if your audience checks it out and they enjoy it, share it, please, because like as indie filmmakers, I mean, that is really where it's at. To have people get behind it and be champions for the film, because like that is really really important. We don't have massive ad spends, we don't have massive marketing dollars. I mean, we really don't. So like the word of mouth, sort of grassroots social media shares, all that stuff really does matter. And that's that as a simple plea from the filmmakers.
No, for
I mean,
sure. I mean, I believe that's the way of the future is building your audience and then getting their support and then utilize. And I know that a lot of studios and managers are saying, "Hey, we see what you've been able to do organically and opening the door and taking the meetings." I believe there's a formula, and I just talked to a director that got 20 million views on a short, and he's built a big social. And I'm like, dude, I was like, if you charged people a quarter and you got 20 million views, you're there. Like, I
yeah,
think there's a world that we create these worlds for ourselves and we're not so dependent on this sort of system. And I think that it opens up the freedom as well to make whatever you want as long as you want. Like Scorsese said the other day, he's like, look, it can be 9 minutes, 90 minutes, as long as you have the creativity and able to capture people's attention, then it doesn't
yeah.
make a difference. And so I believe it's the first time ever, because I've been in this for a long time, that you have the ability to reach audiences directly. And I believe once someone kind of figures that model out, it's just like guys like you who are so innovative and have the ability to create such large scale things, and you're able to monetize it on your own. Like, fuck, dude, you don't have to deal with the salespeople and all the
There's
craziness.
freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, maybe that is where we gotta go with it. I mean, like, if look, I would love to hear, and also, like, I love hearing from the audience as they're seeing it, what's working, what's landing for you, like, what is coming alive for you because you watched this movie. Like, Trigger, one of the short films I directed that was, qualified for the Academy Awards several years back. We didn't win, but we were
We're
qualified.
qualified. Yeah. Which is a huge
The idea
accomplishment.
is, yeah, so, I mean, the fact that, like, when people watch that movie from all over the world, because it was distributed through Shorts International for a while, and I just released it again on my YouTube channel, so again, people can go and watch it. I love hearing people's reactions to the film, like, where people watch it and it deals with suicide, and, like, they watched it in a very dark place, and it supported them in getting out of that dark place, and it's like, that's the kind of storytelling I like to be a part of.
Hmm.
It's storytelling that moves and inspires and means something to people. And even though it's in a sort of, um, package that is commercially viable, it can still, it's like, yes, it's a psychological thriller, but it also
No, I mean,
does
that's
things.
what you did so well with this, right? Was that it had such redemption and personal story, but it was packaged in a way that was thrilling and exciting and sci-fi and genre driven. So I think you did.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it, man. You did a great job, and
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next and when we can talk again.
Yeah, looking forward to, well, and I hope people, I mean, they definitely add me on Instagram. I'm at Chris Folkens, and it's, yeah, Folkens, and then, at Catalyst Movie is the films account too.
And then
So
where is it? Where is everybody? Where can they go see it?
So the movie is released, on Amazon Prime Video for purchase or rent at the moment, and then, also Apple TV, the store, Apple TV store, not Apple TV Plus. So you don't need a subscription to either of them, but it's under $10, on both of those platforms. So I mean, it's like that. I think it's also on, like, Google
Google
and, like,
Play. Yeah.
and yeah, like some of the other sort of, but, like, really Amazon Prime Video is good place to go to it, and also Apple TV store.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
Our show today was recorded in studio by the good folks at Record ATX. Check them out at recordatx.com. Our theme music is produced by Jonathan Price. You can check out some of the sounds he makes with his project, The Mid-Cities, on Spotify. Follow, subscribe, and smash that like button if you see one. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.